Hello, and thanks so much for tuning in to Clear into Balance. My name is Jamie, and on this channel, I remind you that you are a powerful spirit having this human experience, and therefore you have the potential to create or change anything you want. Today, I want to talk about the importance of conscious conception. To me, this is a new term that I've only learned recently. It makes sense to me that we want to be intentional and mindful with conception, with who we're in relationship with, who we're sharing our bodies with, because that stands to create a life, stands to connect us for the rest of this lifetime through a living child. So I think it just makes sense that as the collective is evolving and we're becoming more and more aware of our power as creators in this reality, that we're going to shift the way we operate and do things. And I think honestly, the spirits that are going to be coming in now are kind of demanding that of us, because they're coming in 2025 and beyond, and a lot has shifted in this reality, but a lot stands to be shifted yet. And so we really can't create a new reality for ourselves as humans by doing what we've always done and just calling it good enough. So I think a lot of people are becoming aware of this, which is awesome. I wasn't aware of this when I had my son. So I'll just say that, we know what we know when we know it. And for me, once I learn new things, I try and just do better from there with that new awareness. So this isn't about bashing anybody or your experience. I think everybody that comes into this reality and gets to have a physical body is like celebrating that, because there are a lot more spirits than there are physical bodies to come into. And so if you're here, you're meant to be here. You're meant to be on this physical plane and creating through your body that you have for this one lifetime. And, I just want to say, when I'm talking about conscious conception, the conscious part is really just being like mindful, being really intentional with our actions, with what we're allowing in our lives, and with the potential future life that we're creating with another person. And I'll just define conception right now for this video, as well as future videos when I talk about this subject, as being one that I've learned about through my teacher, Steve Richards, with Holographic Kinetics, who created it, and also through my own personal holographic kinetic sessions and the ones that I've done for others. So conception is when that spark of life, the spark of the spirit, comes into the womb. This actually happens when a man and a woman are physically intimate together. It's not what we've been taught, where it takes days or weeks or happens sometime down the line. No, it happens in that moment when we are physically intimate with another person. This is why it is so important to get really real with ourselves about who we're in relationship with and who we're sharing our bodies with. Because at any time, life could be created from that act. So I think it's really important to ask ourselves questions like, is this person a good match for me? Do we get along? Is this someone that I want to be connected to for the rest of this lifetime through a living child? Is this someone that I would be proud to have my child grow up to be like? That, I think, is really important. And also just, does this person add happiness to my life? Like, are we a good team together? These are all really important things to ask, because I've realized that conception can really impact us so much from that moment when that spark of life comes in, when our spirit comes into this physical body, and the moments just after, how much that can really impact us moving forward. And if we lock in beliefs at that time that are limiting, we set ourselves up for lifetimes of limitation, because that gets carried through. When we lock in a belief at the spirit level, that gets carried through lifetimes until we clear it, which is why I love having sessions of holographic kinetics, because even just in the last, I've been clearing stuff for over 6 years now since I first took a course in holographic kinetics, but even in the last year and a half, the amount of limiting beliefs that I've had come up to be cleared is astonishing. And I had no idea. And like I've talked about in other videos, which you can go back and take a listen if you missed those, about the importance of our beliefs and how they can override our own spirit. So, you know, we can actually be intentional with conception and set our kids up, our potential future children up, with the best possible entrance into this life. And I'll just give a little bit of info because, you know, it's all very personal information, but I'll just say that my own conception into this life was less than desirable. There was a lot of stress involved, and my parents really weren't a good match. Now, you know, for me, this whole thing with conscious conception has only come into my awareness recently. So if this is new to you, it doesn't surprise me. You know, not everybody has heard of this before or have even had thoughts about this before, and I understand that. And we are all right where we need to be on our own journeys. And also, like, kids that come into less than desirable situations, circumstances, it's really, they're creating that from past experiences. We all set ourselves up to create the reality that we get, to grow, to learn lessons, and to experience our own creations, to balance things out from the past. So no matter what somebody comes into, you know, nobody is a victim. We are all powerful creators. And I've seen that through my own sessions where I go back and see how I set that up, how I set up an issue, why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. And sometimes it's gone back to past lives where I've done horrible things. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's coming down the genetic line. Sometimes it was just created in this lifetime. But back to conception, you know, it's really interesting because for so many issues now, I've been taken back to conception, which, like I said, it's that moment when the spark of the spirit comes in, but also the moments just after as well. And so I've been taken to all kinds of different moments when my mom was thinking all different things, or things were happening in the reality at all different times. And depending on the dimension, like what was going on, I locked in limiting beliefs. You know, I took on thoughts that my mom was having, emotions that she was experiencing, things that she was thinking and feeling from those moments, and then ended up taking on beliefs, you know, about relationships, about men, about my own worth, about being wanted or not being wanted, around feeling like a burden or like I'm causing a lot of stress in my parents' lives because, you know, there's a lot going on because I exist. Things like that, okay? You can imagine that that has huge implications for life moving forward when we take on those kinds of beliefs for ourselves. I've already talked about how beliefs shape our reality, so if you missed that, go back and watch my other videos. But it's really fundamental. It's really fundamental. And, you know, when we realize this, and why I'm making this video is because we have the chance to set our kids up, our potential future children up for the best possible entrance into this life by being only sharing our bodies with people that we actually would want to become a parent with, that we would actually want to have our kids grow up to be like, that we're actually in a really happy situation and we make a good team with our partner. I mean, that's setting us up for success. And, you know, from my experience, like, I didn't have all of that lined up, and it hasn't been an easy road, okay? But I see how I set it all up and how I created it. And it's wild because when I talk about us being powerful creators and creating everything in our reality, while we don't have conscious memory of those times from when we were conceived, for instance, it sticks with us at the spirit level. Our spirit remembers everything that we've ever experienced. It knows where our issues were all created. It has that knowledge. And when you realize, like, I've been taken back and shown how from my conception, I then went on to set up cycles of similarity and drew experiences that were like my conception to me as an adult with men that I've been with. And it's really wild when, in session I had the image of my dad getting dressed after, for instance, and I've been shown the same exact vision. I've actually witnessed someone that I was with get up in the exact same way and act the same way, even down to having the same kind of physical intimacy and experience that was what was happening when I was conceived. I've gone on to set that up for myself over and over again. And now, mind you, like I said, it was less than desirable. So my experiences then in my adult life with men has been less than desirable. Not always, not with everyone, but still a lot of it. And when you realize that we're creating from that and how pivotal those moments are, doesn't it make you want to set your future kids up for success? It does for me anyway. I think for me, the only way I'll have more kids is to be conscious of the whole thing. I don't intend to share my body with anyone moving forward unless I feel like I would want to create life with that person. And I think this is so key because it's just people are out gratifying their just physical needs and desires this way. And we've been taught, or it's sort of maybe been implied that it's no big thing, that sleeping with someone isn't that big of a deal, whatever, right? But it is, because life is literally created from that act. And for me anyway, I only want to go into it very conscious of what I'm doing and with someone that I feel really safe with, that I feel very confident that we would make a good team together as parents, that, the person adds more happiness to my life. They add to my life. They don't take away. I want to just set it up to have the best possible partnership to bring a future child into, because I am determined to not have future children have to go back to their own conception over and over again to clear out the amount of limiting beliefs and thoughts and emotions that I've had to do in my own life. I want to give them better than what I had. And I think that's just natural. That's natural as parents, Just like my parents, they wanted to give me and my sisters a better life than what they experienced as kids. So they did a lot of things differently than their parents did. This is just part of that. This is just part of that. As we grow and evolve and we learn new things, we can do better as humans in this experience. This is just basically a wake-up call for us to realize that the thoughts, words, actions, and deeds that we have the ability to really impact our future generations and our families. Acting from those places of those limiting beliefs, and we're getting less than what we want, and we're not understanding why we keep having the same patterns repeat over and over, why relationships keep feeling the same, why intimacy keeps feeling the same, even though the people change. This is why, because we can have beliefs, we can have things locked in from the moment that we come into this reality. So it just makes you wonder then, what can I do better? How can I shape this conception for my potential future children? What can I do to make it a really positive experience? And, things like just being with the right partner or someone who just feels right to us, and slowing down and taking time and being very loving and being very aware of each other's needs and not just our own, and taking time to snuggle and just be and enjoy the moment and, revel in the fact that we could have created life together and what that means for us and what that means for our future and the excitement that we feel about that possibility. All of that's important to express. And depending on where you are, you may or may not want to bring life in to your reality right now, right? Like everybody's in a different place. And if that's the case too, then just be mindful of that, you know? Like I tell my spirit what I want, and spirit helps line that up. Like we set intentions, and then we also take precautions and are mindful of like our actions and how they could impact things. Like we take the precautions to not bring life in then, right? But, you know, the idea that the spark of spirit comes in during that physical intimacy changes a lot of things with how we move forward from that experience. And, you know, it really shapes the beginning of that little spirit's life in this reality. It's really interesting how much gets set up from the past for us to experience one way or another. And like for me, I basically set it up to experience my birth again through my own son's birth. And you know, it's just like when you realize the enormity of these things and the impact that we can have, that means that we also have the power to change it in huge ways, in very important ways. So in terms of conscious conception, I think what we really need to ask ourselves is, what kind of situation, what kind of partnership, what kind of family would we ourselves want to be born into if we were that little spirit coming into this life for the first time to us? And I know for myself, I've changed my own conception, many dimensions around it, in pretty similar ways actually, with parents who are best friends, who have a deep connection, who have fun together, who have a deep trust and respect for each other, who are kind, compassionate, laugh together, like do things they love together, and consciously brought me into their family. Like they planned for me, they wanted me, they built the security and foundation of their relationship, and they wanted to add me to it. So, you know, is that the kind of relationship you have right now? Is that what you're bringing your little future potential children into right now? Is that the setup that you have? And if not, what changes do you need to make in order to make that happen? Or what awareness can you have around it now that you've got this new information, you know? Because I think at the end of the day, how do we want our future children to feel about coming into this world? Do we want them to be excited, or do we want them to feel like a burden? Do we want them to just be so happy with the parents they chose, or are we wanting them to come in and then start second guessing their choices? Because we can create either, and it's really up to us. We have the power of that creation. And like I said, for me, I only want to bring kids into a really solid situation where they feel wanted and loved right away and can be just excited to come into this life and create whatever they want in this life. So, yeah, it's a lot to think about, but it's also really amazing to think about because we're that powerful. And, you know, do we want our kids to have to go back and relive their conception over and over throughout their life because it was maybe terrible or not ideal or stressful? Or do we want them to move forward creating that same kind of partnership that we've set up for them to have as parents in this life, where they have a secure partner and they have a healthy partnership moving forward, and they don't even have to go back and change anything about their conception because in their life they get really healthy and beautiful intimate relationships and experiences. I'm going to leave it there, but if this resonated with you, please like and subscribe so that other people find this message that need to hear it. And I'll see you in the next video. I hope you have a really awesome day.